taking a lunch break. I appreciate you checking out the show today. My name is Nick Wise. Thank you so much for being with us each and every day. Shout out to all the wise guys listening. Today's show, I guess we'll start with the Rays, then we'll talk about the Lightning, maybe get into USF, the Florida Gators. I mean, there's really just nothing going on with the Buccaneers, right?
Yeah, there's no news, right? Just a normal getting ready for training camp.
Yeah, training camp. We'll get into the Buck. No, I'm kidding. Today's show sheet is Vita Vea, followed by Vita Vea, followed by a guest who will talk about Vita Vea with us. Back to Vita Vea, more Vita. I mean, it's going to be Vita Vea today. That's what we're talking about. What I want to do on the show today is really attack it from every single angle that there is. You know, who could they trade him to? What happens if they don't want to trade him? What's his value trade-wise? What's his value money-wise? Should the Bucs play chicken? Like, I want to dive into every single possible scenario on the show today. Now, I hopped on the air yesterday in the 6 o'clock hour when the news broke. We had some connection issues with Rock Riley, who was doing the show from his house. And, when I hopped on the air yesterday, it was just the beginning of things. And I had said, I feel like we have maybe seen Vita Vea in a Buccaneers uniform for the final time. And I've thought about that. This could be used, obviously, as a negotiating ploy, but I also, and look, we've seen this before, and we got clips from, NFL insiders talking about that, but I do think when you're Vita Vea and you get to this point, I do think you have gotten to the point to where you have had enough. You're not getting what you want, and you do want out.
Hey, Nick, I don't mean to cut you off, but we got a little Baker Mayfield breaking news here.
Oh, God. All right. What happened?
So Rick Stroud just tweeted out, Baker Mayfield will play the 2026 season under his current contract as they were unable to reach a new deal with the Bucs. So it's not only we have Vita Vea requesting a trade, but there's no deal for Baker right now.
I don't know what this organization's trying to do. I really, what direction are we trying to go? What is your backup plan to Baker Mayfield? Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could franchise tag him. The guy's been here 3 years. He's played well for 2.5 years. What more do you need to see? I mean, he is the guy. He has control of the locker room. How you're not coming together and bringing the Buccaneers look really bad right now. The Buccaneers don't look good.
Well, and again, we talked about this yesterday, saying how you look at Cleveland and their quarterback situation.
Yeah.
Do you want to be them? Do you want to have to deal with a Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, and then maybe a third quarterback? Come on.
Yeah, all right, so that's disappointing. All right, didn't have that on the show sheet today. So Baker's going to go into the final. What is happening at One Buck Place right now? What are we doing? Now, I understand what they're doing with Vita Vea, and I'm going to lead with Vita, and we'll get into the Baker stuff as the show goes on. But the Vita Vea stuff, like I completely understand the Buccaneers, not just rushing to give him every single demand, because I do believe that the Buccaneers have the leverage. Now, I want to talk about a few things that I have read online over the past 12 hours since the news broke. Todd Bowles is at fault for Mike Evans, Levante David, and Vita Vea. No insult to anybody online, even though I do find those to be sometimes the worst people in the world, but not everything is Todd Bowles' fault. All right, the defense not playing well, collapsing at the end of the year, Todd Bowles. All right, that's fair. You want to blame what happens on game day on Todd Bowles? Sure. Mike Evans got pretty good intel, did not leave because of Todd Bowles. Had nothing to do with Todd. Now, I know I will never convince any of you that that's not true, and I'm not going to sit here for 2 hours and try to do so. You can either take my word for it, and you can move on from that narrative, or you can continue to believe what you want to believe, and that's fine, right? Like, I'm not mad at you. But not everything is Todd Bowles' fault. Again, defense playing bad on a Sunday, maybe the scheme, you don't love it, you don't like your linemen dropping back into cover. I get it, right? You have your complaints, clock management. There's a number of things that maybe Todd Bowles doesn't like that you don't approve of, But not all of these are Todd Bowles' fault. All right, so Mike Evans is number one. Levante David retiring, I assure you, isn't on Todd Bowles. Did you watch the games last year? Even if Levante David didn't want to retire, I would sit him in a room and go, you know that I think it's a commercial where he goes, "Are you sure about that?"
Oh, it's a TV show.
Yeah, I'd play that over and over. Are you sure about that? Because I wouldn't want Levante David on this team. Not that he's a bad person, but we saw the decline last year. The defense was horrible. I think they've upgraded at the position by bringing in Alex Anzalone. He was running the defense for the Lions, who was also a brutally injured defense, and now he comes into a very similar situation. But he's got Todd Bowles now as his defensive coordinator, and believe it or not, Todd Bowles is well-respected around the league. Now, this whole show isn't going to be like, oh, Todd Bowles is great. Look, I've got my indifferences with Todd Bowles and how he does some things as well. But we can't just play the blame game and everything be Todd Bowles' fault. Levante David didn't retire because of Todd Bowles. Levante David retired because, guys, it was time. When a guy admits to taking plays off and loafing, it's time. Now, Vita Vea, I've seen, Vita Vea, he wants to leave because he doesn't believe we're contenders. No, Vita Vea wants to leave because he's not getting the amount of money that he wants. When you hear that he wants to go to a California team or the Raiders, that should tell you that winning means nothing to the guy. Because the Raiders are not in contention to win. Will they be better than they were a year ago? Absolutely. They spent a ton of money in free agency. The reason he mentioned the Raiders, or whoever put that out there, whoever's in touch and has their sources, that the Raiders are a team he would like to play for, there is a connection there with Spytek and Brady. And, oh, by the way, they've been shelling out a lot of money. Like, how about overpaying for a center? And Vita Vea is seeing all these guys get the dollars over there in Las Vegas, and maybe he's like, hey, I'll put them on my team. They'll pay me. But it has nothing to do with whether or not this team is in contention or not. Vita Vea is about one thing and one thing only. That is the dollars. It is not about when he's already got his Super Bowl. He wants to be paid, and he wants security. So he requested a trade yesterday as the contract negotiations have stalled. He is 31 years old. He's entering the final year of his deal, and he now wants a new contract. And the Buccaneers, I believe, have three options. You either pay him, you trade him, or you play chicken. And you go, I'm not trading you. What are you going to do? See, I think the Buccaneers have all the leverage in the world in this situation. If I'm Jason Light, I'm saying, okay, well, guess what? I'm not going to trade you. So you're either going to play on this deal, or you're going to sit out a year. You're not going to make $18 million. You're free to sign wherever you want next year. Who's going to give you a monster deal after sitting out for a year? And, oh, by the way, whatever they give you is not going to overcompensate the $18 million that you're giving up this year. The Bucs have the leverage. I'm playing chicken with the guy. All right, you want to trade? Go for it. I'm not trading you. You going to sit out all year? You signed the deal. Live up to it. So that's one way the Buccaneers could go about it. Or they could trade him. I gave you a team last night, and then just a couple hours later, it comes out he wants to play for a team in California or the Raiders, and everyone's like, oh, the Rams, the Niners. I think the Niners are the team to watch. Alfred Collins, nose tackle, is on the PUP list right now. They've got the most cap space. He's got a friend on the team. I don't know if you know this, Mike Evans. And then they could meet up and they could talk about how they left the Bucs together because of Todd Bowles, because that's how some of you will interpret it. Now, for those of you that are realists and you can understand that it's not always about Todd Bowles and it's about money, you won't have those thoughts in your mind. But it's not on Todd. And it's kind of getting old. And again, I get your frustrations of Todd Bowles as a fan. It is frustrating. But to think that this is on him, to me, that's a wild take. And I had people, tweeting at me all day last night. Todd Bowles was this. The Bucs chose Todd Bowles. Guys, the Buccaneers tried to overpay Mike Evans. It wasn't that they didn't try, because I also, the other narrative we've gotten that I've seen online is the Glazers are cheap. Guys, they were going to overpay Mike. Overpay him, his value, because they wanted to make him a Buccaneer for life. It was important to them. Now, he left, for whatever reasons they may be. The only thing we were told is that it had nothing to do with Todd Bowles, And those reports came from Rock Riley, who talked to somebody on the inside who he really trusts. And when Rock says something, I believe him. And when he can assure me that it had nothing to do with Todd Bowles, I have to take Rock's word. Now, the Glazers being cheap, I don't think is a fair argument either. Because they tried to overpay Mike. I told you all along, if Mike's going to cost $20+ million, I don't even want him here. And I'm just giving you the flat out truth. I think it would have been stupid to give him that kind of money. I don't think he should have that kind of money at this stage in his career. I think it needed to be spent elsewhere, whether it be on Vita Vea or Baker Mayfield or wherever. But just because Mike was a living legend here doesn't mean I got to give him a pay raise and overpay and have two $20 million receivers on my team. So I don't think it's that the Glazers are cheap. Are there times where maybe they do things and we're like, kind of a money saver move? Maybe holding on to Todd Bowles, that was a money saver move. For sure. But I don't think this is about, the Glazers being cheap. I actually think they're trying to do what's best for this football team. And overpaying a 31-year-old interior defensive lineman, you got to be careful. What is that value? Where are these negotiations? Is Vita Vea trying to reset the market? We have no idea. I don't know what he's trying to get. Now, I do want to get into what could you possibly get in return for Vita Vea? Is it even worth looking for a trade partner? Who are the possible trade partners that would talk to you? And what does it look like if the Buccaneers just say we're going to keep you and not pay you? Or what does it look like if the Buccaneers are going to keep him and give him a raise? What could that raise look like? So I want to kind of dive into everything. I will throw a question out there on the line, 888-388-0957. You've seen the initial reports. What side of the fence are you on? Are you team Vita Vea, pay the man? Or are you team Buccaneers, stand your ground, you've got the leverage, don't give a 31-year-old interior defensive lineman more money? So we can have fun with that. There's so many angles I want to go with this, and we will get into that coming up next here on The Nick Wise Show on 95.7 WDAE and AM 620.